Thanks so much for watching On Call for All Kids. Today we'll be talking about stress and anxiety in teens. We'll be discussing the biggest stressors and anxiety triggers for teens, the difference between anxiety and stress, and how to support your teen as a parent. I'm joined by Dr. Jennifer Katzenstein. She's the co-director for the Center for Behavioral Health here at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Dr. K, great to have you back.
Good to see you, Ashley.
Well, let's talk about this. We know that the pandemic has affected all of us in so many different ways, and that includes teenagers and adolescents. How common are mental health disorders and anxiety in teens?
Absolutely. We knew prior to the pandemic that we would see about 1 in 5 of our children and adolescents experience some type of mental health concern. And of our adolescents, about 8% of teenagers will experience anxiety to the point that reaches clinical significance sometime during those teenage years. So, really, about 1 in 10 to 1 in 13 teens will experience that anxiety that's beyond just stress that we would experience typically to a more significant level that impacts their daily functioning.
Well, what's going on in their lives when they start to experience the stress and anxiety? What triggers it?
In typical times, we would see the teenage years really be ripe for new experiences, the new opportunities and challenges. Teenagers' brains are changing and they also are wanting more independence and more autonomy and seeking out ways to do that. But also, so many stressors, especially as it comes to worrying about maybe starting high school or what is going to happen after high school, fitting in with friends, not to mention final exams, lots more schoolwork, potential performance in plays or in some type of school performance or athletics. And now more than ever, we also have the pandemic on top of all of that, not to mention changes in political affairs, international concerns, and then social media. So there's definitely anxiety that's part of a normal range of emotions, just like feeling angry or embarrassed. And for most teens, that anxiety won't last and it'll go away on its own. But for some teenagers, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. And it can be so intense that it stops them from doing everyday things.
Can you break it down for us, the difference between anxiety and stress?
Absolutely. So, most normal, kind of typical anxiety and stress goes away quickly, maybe in a day or two, or even in a few hours. But anxiety becomes an increasing concern when that feeling, the nervousness, the worry, even the irritability becomes intense. It goes on maybe for weeks, months, or even longer. And it gets in the way of the teenager being able to learn, really engage in their home or school or work environments, and get the most out of daily life. It's preventing them from really doing those things that they had previously enjoyed and engaging in activities that would be typical for their daily life.
What are those symptoms that we should look out for of anxiety in teens?
Absolutely. So symptoms can include things like worries, feeling irritable, nervous, restless, even kind of wound up or being on edge. Sometimes it can include physical symptoms like being easily fatigued, stomach aches, headaches, or even difficulties with thinking and problem solving, such as difficulties with concentrating or feeling like your mind goes blank. I hear that a lot when I talk to teenagers about test taking.
Yeah, what do we need to know about test taking with teens? How can we help our teens out?
Test anxiety is really a type of performance anxiety. So it's a feeling when someone may feel extra nervous, anxious, worried in a situation where performance is really important or there's a lot of pressure to do well. For example, a teenager might have performance anxiety before a big exam, like we certainly have when it is time to make those transitions in high school, like an SAT or ACT. So when we have that test anxiety, really we might blank out when we get to the exam. We may have had lots of good time to study and feel prepared. And then you walk into the test, your mind goes blank. You maybe have headaches, you're having difficulty concentrating. And then for a lot of my teenagers, they walk out of the test and they remember the answers or they can think back to those problems and they are frustrated because they knew how to do that. So, really, we want to focus on teaching good coping strategies during that time, getting the study skills in place, but also we want our teenagers to envision success. So, looking to them to imagine what it's like in the testing room, what it would look like if they were doing really well, and then getting good sleep. And then, of course, you hear me talk a lot about calming breathing and self-calming via things like progressive muscle relaxation and changing our thinking surrounding the thoughts that we have.
Lastly, as a parent, how can we be that support system and helping hand for our teen?
Yeah, as parents, we have such a huge responsibility, and that comes with its own set of anxiety and worries, right? Being a parent. So, as a parent, we want to make sure to acknowledge our teenagers' fears and emotions. Don't ignore it and don't dismiss it by saying things like, you have a good life, you shouldn't worry about that, or that's not a big deal right now. We need to take those emotions that our teenagers are sharing with us very seriously and get ready to listen. Don't meet them with too many questions. Let them talk. Sit in that silence. Even though sometimes it can be uncomfortable, we really want them to be able to feel comfortable to share with us without us as parents asking question after question to get that information out of them. Let them really bring it to us. And again, you've heard me say before, making those times during the day where we put our electronic devices down and really pay attention to one another. Encourage the healthy diet, the physical activity every day, and the good sleep habits, and then making sure that you have a strong parent-teenager relationship, because that's so good, not only for the communication, but it's actually protective from a mental health perspective too. But if it's gotten to the point where the anxiety is interfering with the daily life of your teenager, definitely time to reach out to a pediatrician or trusted professional or psychologist or therapist to be able to get more support.
Well, Dr. K, always great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ashley.
And thank you all for watching. Don't forget, you can also visit our website. It's hopkinsallchildren's.org/newsroom, and you'll find a lot of other timely topics in pediatric healthcare and resources for your family. We'll see you next week.